What up, everybody? Sven Diesel here. We're going to be doing a double hotspot soft tackle today. The name explains it all. We're doing two hotspots, and it's a soft tackle. We've got a stealth hook in the vise. This is a size 14. I usually fish them in sometimes 10s, but 12s and 14s. We're going to be using some Semperfli Waxed thread. This is an 8/0 and orange. Now we're just going to start our thread right here behind the eye. Now this is going to be our hotspot color and also our head color. So you could use red, yellow, pink, purple, but we're choosing orange. And we're going to basically adjust our hook in the vise because we're going to be going well into the bend so that the body and hotspot looks proportionate and would be a nice trout snack. And so I found it easier to adjust the hook down so that we can tie well into the bend. So right about here, that is normally where I would, end. That's about even with the point or the barb. And so we're going to continue on downward into the bend. Well farther than you think you should. And then we'll just basically we're going to wrap back over itself, and that will be our hot spot. And so right here you really want to make sure your wraps are touching and it looks real nice. It's going to present itself as a nice orange blob or hot spot. So we're also going to do a double. So we got some 0.1 millimeter fine Semperfli wire that I'll just go ahead and cut off about 3 inches, 4 inches, makes it easier to work with. And we'll proceed to tie that in, trying to keep it on the underside of the shank because that helps with uniformity. It's always good to practice having a good underbody for future so that when you do thread bodies, you don't have to relearn how to do it. You're just used to doing clean underbodies, and there we go. So we're going to secure that in, and you may ask, this is the third time I'm going over the shank with thread. Well, when I do my Peacock bodies, I like to have a bulkier underbody, so the Peacock really is more defined or bigger. And so by building up a little bit of bulk on the shank of this hook, 4 or 5, 6 times up and down with thread, it will also aid in that. Adjust your hook back to how we'll finish the fly, and for my Peacock, I like using the feathers. Just because the hurl the purple doesn't look purple. It's like a purplish green. This is purple. And so we'll go ahead and tie in the tip and proceed down to not where our wire is coming out, but leave a little bit of gap because we're going to do that wire hot spot once we wrap this Peacock around and form our body. And so I think that's the 6th time I've crossed this shank with thread, so we are good to go. Before I do Peacock, I always secure or put a little bit of super glue, or this is Zap-A-Gap down. It just helps hold it, and that way if it breaks off, it's secure. No, I'm joking. We're talking extra durability here. The wire will also be for durability, but also for flash in a second hotspot. So get ready to palmer your Peacock, and as you wrap it around, you want to make sure the fibers, they do have direction, but this piece seems to be kind of I don't know. I must have grabbed this all weird because the fibers are kind of going everywhere. But as I'm wrapping this around, I'm making sure not to twist the fiber in directional twists in my hand. I'm trying to keep it going the same way the whole way up. So that way you don't have some fibers going front and some going back, but this one's a little bit messy, which more buggy means more fishiness. Right? But just make sure you don't pull too tight because then you will break this. Peacock is a very fragile material in my opinion, and so as you get up close to the eye and you don't have that much material left, but be a little bit careful. But we are dealing with the base of it, which is stronger than the tip, so we should be okay. And you can use Hackle pliers if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and tie that off. Hackle pliers makes it a lot easier. And then I will pull this back to secure it in, and we can go ahead and snip that out. Don't snip your thread, just snip the Peacock out. And there's our body. Now we're going to do a secondary hotspot, and so I don't want to trap too many of these fibers in the back because the feather was a little bit fluffy in the beginning, and so we're just going to try and do touching wraps the best you can. It's probably not going to be perfect on this one, but you guys can make sure it's perfect as you can look a little bit closer. Like I said, I got this camera between me and the fly, and so I'm kind of eyeballing this from a distance and this is small wire, so probably not going to be perfect, but you can make those wraps touching as you get in a little closer. And then as you get into that peacock before trapping fibers like I would do here, that's when you want to start ribbing this, helping with durability of the peacock, but also adding a little bit more flash in the body segmentation. And who doesn't like pink? I mean, the fish go crazy. So we've got our two hot spots in the back, we've got our body, and I'll go ahead and tie off this wire here right behind the eye and secure it with a few wraps in front, and we'll snip it out. And now we're ready for the fun part. We want to use some Brahma hen for this. This is a really good color here. A lot of speckle goodness here that I really like, and we're going to select a fiber down in the bottom section. I like to oversize my wet flies or soft tackles, and so others might say this one's a little bit big, but we want to make sure we get into the speckleness, whereas some here back towards the fluff are not as speckled, and so we'll just discard those with the fluff, and we'll go ahead and prep our feather by the tip by grabbing the tip and preening the fibers back, and we create kind of a nice tie-in point. I leave the tag end on the front, and a lot of these fibers here on the front are a little bit small, and with soft tackles you want them to be a little bit sparse and more full, and I want to focus on these lengthy fibers. And so we'll go ahead and pull this back, securing in our feather here, and we're also kind of building the foundation of the head so we don't have to whip finish 2-3 times. And we'll just cut out that tip as flush as we can up against that wire, or not wire, up against the thread, and we are ready to fold these back and palmer it. You can see how secure it is versus just tying in a little triangle. I really like this method and have adopted it into most of my tying now. So we want these fibers going back. Just stroke them back, and as you work your way around, just make sure they're all going back, and try not to stab yourself in the point of the hook too much, but it's almost unavoidable when you're trying to get these all going back. And so we'll go ahead and cross over that stem with one wrap of thread, and then we'll pull down. And now what I'm going to do is preen all of these fibers back, and we will do 2-3 turns, kind of beginning to wrap over the stem. But I don't like to, oh gosh, I think I just got my thread on the point of the hook. You want to avoid that. I got a little bit of fraying going on, but we'll make it work. This is actually probably a good lesson, so avoid the point of the hook. But we will go ahead and do a whip finish here, and I'm going to do a double whip finish. It's not necessary, but that way I can kind of clean up this fray I got from hitting the point, and that looks pretty good. But let's clean it up just a tad bit more with a second whip finish and work our way from front and get that last little fray, and there we go. So easy recovery from a mistake on the tires end. So we'll go ahead and snip out our thread, and then we'll proceed to snip out our stem, making sure not to yank on it too hard, but just pull it forward enough so we can see where the actual stem is versus the fibers, and we'll cut it out. Kind of brush those, see how it looks. I like that. I might be a little bit bulky on top, but I don't think the fish are going to care. They might think it's better. Now, before I resin this head, I kind of want to make sure these fibers are not laying back, but kind of up with a little bit of profile. I tend to get a little bit of my resin into those fibers, and it kind of helps them form and stiffen to the position that they're at now. And so we just put a little bit of UV resin covering that, giving us a nice head. And securing this fly, making it ultra durable. We'll go ahead and cure it up. Now check this out. This orange thread pops like none other. That's pretty cool. I really enjoy this thread. It's a just orange wax thread by Semperfli. So color combinations are endless. All these materials are available in a bunch of different colors, and you can mix and match and add as much as you want, but tie them up, fish them, and hope they pierce lips for you.